Coventry City are a win away from returning to the Premier League. They face Luton Town in the Championship playoff final on Saturday in what is billed, of course, as the richest game in football. It could then be a day to remember for the Sky Blues, and a man who will remember what it was like to play for Coventry in the top flight is with me now. Noel Whelan, how are you? How you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, looking forward to the match.
Yes, and we'll get to that match shortly, but we have to talk a little bit about yourself and playing for Coventry like you did in the mid-1990s. What are your memories of your time at Coventry?
Only good memories from the time that I left Leeds United. Obviously, Big Ron was the manager at the time. Gordon Strachan was the assistant. And it was probably Gordon from my time at Leeds United when I played with him and worked with him as a player alongside him that probably went out and brought me from Leeds United to Coventry. So, yeah, I had a lot to thank for Gordon for that. Fantastic time there, great teammates. And yes, it wasn't without trying to stay alive in the Premier League on some years out of my 5 that I was there. But I've got to say, that was probably one of my best times of my career while I was playing for the Sky Blues.
Yeah, you spent played the most number of games at Coventry in your career than anywhere else. Scored, 30-odd goals as well in your time there. And it's interesting when you mentioned Gordon Strachan, because I was reading about his influence on you and how he did bring you to the club and also how he was a bit of a father figure for you. Some fascinating tales about how you ended up living with him and how he came to the cinema once, I was reading as well, to check on you.
Yeah, didn't go without controversy when I came to the club, that's for sure. Yeah, I was lively on it and probably just as lively off it at times. And yeah, look, I think sometimes when you move away at a very young age, like I did, leaving family behind in Leeds and going somewhere completely brand new for the first time in my career and life. And it's very, very short turnaround from when I came through at Leeds to then signing for Coventry. The adjustments for me were kind of simple because it's just all about football, but it was off the field when I wasn't playing. I wasn't one sort of player that could go home and relax and play FIFA, and I was a bit more energetic than that. So when I got a little bit too energetic, yes, Gordon, when I really needed some help, when I really needed that bit of guidance in my life still, away from the football, he was kind enough, and his family, Leslie and the kids there, to bring me into his house and put me on the straight and narrow again, live my life that little bit better, get a little bit of discipline back in my life that I needed at the time. And I don't think there's too many people or managers that would have helped me in the way that Gordon did and his family. So a lot of credit and a lot of thanks goes to Gordon, because I think that was probably a time where I played some of my best football as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's going above and beyond, isn't it, really, for what a manager would normally do. I know some managers will put the arm around a shoulder and they'll make themselves available. For him to open up his home, to look out for you and make sure that your career is going down the right path, that's incredible.
Yeah, and I think that we had not just a manager-player relationship. I think we had a friendship there as well, because we played together at Leeds United. And, I think he wasn't naive enough to see that, I was struggling a little bit with life and trying to deal with certain things and that I needed to change in my life to make me a better player. And that was the whole aim, really, for Gordon, was to get the best out of me, on the field, which is ultimately going to help him and the team. So, yes, I still got myself in a teeny tiny bit of bother when I was living with him, but it wasn't as bad as when I wasn't. So.
All right, so it did help you out, basically, is the good thing. Tell me then, when you did decide to move to Coventry from Leeds, as you pointed out, how were Coventry viewed back then when you thought about making that switch?
Well, Coventry were a club that was always been in the Premier League, pretty much. During my time coming through, it was a move that came out of the blue for me. I got rung up on a Sunday morning by Howard Wilkinson. I was literally in bed, and it was early morning. And he just said, I need to speak to you. Straight away, I had a feeling. There's no shame in it. I was in tears in bed. Kind of knew what was going on. But yeah, the transition was very quick. It was during that morning when I spoke to him, got my boots. I was straight up the motorway at a hotel, met with Big Ron, Gordon. And then within hours, medical was done, and I was signed as a Coventry player. And I didn't really know too much about the football club. I grew to love and know over my 5 years as I played for them. But the support was fantastic. The club was as friendly as a club you'll ever get. And there's still people there now that weren't there when I was back playing as well, which I think is a credit to the club. So, for me going back and seeing the fans and thanking the fans and, catching up with old faces, it's a real privilege.
Yeah, and some of the players that you played with as well, some fantastic players. You've the likes of Dion Dublin, Darren Huckabee, Robbie Keane, Mustafa Hadji, for example, just some of the names I can reel off. What was the squad like then in the entirety of your time there?
It was better than what our position suggested at times. When you look through the internationals that were in our side, you can go through Magnus Hedman, Sweden's number one goalkeeper, to Roland Nielsen. The right back for Sweden, centre halves and Richard Shaw, Paul Williams, there's Liam Dage, there's Gary Breen, who's an international, left back David Burrows, Solarco, on one side, Peter Unlove on the other, Gary McAllister, Carlton Palmer, George Boateng, and then obviously your front three of Darren Huckabee, myself and Robbie Keane, along with the other strikers that were more than capable to chip in and score goals as well. So when you looked at the whole squad, on paper, we had excellent players, but what we did have is a massive togetherness. We all got on really, really well. And I think that helped in the fight for survival during a couple of years at least.
And that sort of rings a bell with the current Coventry, really, which we'll get to in due course. I know you're part of the team that reached the FA Cup quarter-finals, which was the first time they've done that since winning it in 1987. So that must have been pretty special to be involved in that. And I imagine the fans would have enjoyed that cup run as well.
Oh, absolutely. The FA Cup was always a good distraction away from the league, and it still had that beauty and love about that competition back then for us. You always look forward to it. Every game you went through, you got that little bit closer. I think the FA Cup brings something a little bit different and a bit more special to a season, especially for the fans as well, because you're close to going to Wembley, which the current team are going to be doing. But yeah, quarterfinals, you kind of get there, and I know we should have probably won that game as well. Against Sheffield United, I think it was, that knocked us out. But then, sometimes it wasn't meant to be. I think I remember Middlesbrough scoring every single round up until the semi-final, where I was injured. We lost 1-0. So I got that little bit closer again, but never managed it, unfortunately. But look, Coventry deserve nothing but success. They've gone through some really hard times, harder than what I was when I was there. Fans have always stuck by them. And just fingers crossed, really, for Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, they play at the CBS Arena now, but you played at Highfield Road. So what was that like?
Do you know what? I love that. I love that stadium. I really did. I know that everything you've got now is the mod cons. It's staged for a Premier League team. It really is. It's got everything that you would want. But for me, Highfield Road just had that feel to it, that good old-fashioned stadium, really closed. You could feel the energy from the fans. You could feel the support from the fans. And away teams hated coming to stadiums like that. There's a real good atmosphere. And for me, really good memories. I scored on my home debut against Everton in a 2-1 win. So yeah, a lot of good memories, a lot of good goals, a lot of good wins for us. Over top sides as well that, really, people probably won't put it down on paper of having the chance of getting anything out of.
And as you said, when you moved there, they were an established top flight team. They'd been promoted in the late 1960s, so they've been there for quite some time. I imagine Coventry City, the actual city, was buzzing about the football, and, it's always special when it's a one club city. And I imagine at that time it was really, really special.
Yeah, it is. And, you can really feel, I think everybody benefits when the football team is in the top flight, not just the people around, but businesses, the vibrancy of the city, the feel-good factor of everything that it brings with it, and the excitement. It does make a difference. I'm not going to lie to you. You can feel that when you're out there, after games, and the excitement before the games when you're coming into the stadium. So for them to get back there, not only financially, because they've gone through some really difficult financial times, but just to give that bit more life and that vibrancy and excitement back to a city that really deserves it. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, and you've mentioned and touched on the financial issues. They've had, obviously, ownership troubles. They've had stadium problems. They've had pitch issues even this season, which meant, of course, that they had a number of their home games postponed at the start of the season, so they're having to play catch-up. They went the first 7 games without a win as well.
Yeah.
It's absolutely remarkable to have started a season like that to now be one win away from promotion.
Oh, it is. I mean, the job that's been done by Mark Robins at the football club under a cloud during his time there, and you've got to say it has been a cloud. It must be difficult to, to prepare for football matches with everything that's going on in the background. To be in this position from where they were at the beginning of the season, then not knowing if we're going to be playing the Coventry City arena again, to where they've had this long run of not being beaten to get where they are. It is absolutely incredible. And then going to, obviously, the Riverside Middlesbrough, a strong outfit there. Carrick's done a fantastic job as well. You could have argued that either deserved to be in the final, but, Coventry on the evening got that decisive goal, and what a goal it was, worthy of any winner to get you to Wembley.
Yeah, and you talked about the sort of unity that was in your team when you played for Coventry, and you imagine that's kind of what Mark Robins has achieved in this current Coventry side, because partly of all the off-the-field issues that they've had.
Yeah, and the fact is that they've not had a massive budget to use. So when you look at everything in one big picture there, the controversy off the field, the financial issues, to build a team that's obviously playing for the manager, there's no doubt about that tight-knit, team and group of players that are fighting for one another, to be sitting bottom, not played at home for 5 games, to have to play catch-up in itself is hard work, because you'd rather have the points on the board than have to catch up those points. So during that season, there's been so much pressure on these players, and in that last 17, 18 games of this running, they've been incredible. They really have. And I don't think anybody in the Championship could take that away from them and say they don't deserve to be there, or Luton, because they had a fantastic year last year as well. It's made to be a fantastic final with two teams that have gone through some horrific times.
Absolutely. 20 years then, or it's just over 20 years since they last played in the Premier League, Coventry. What do you think it would mean to the city then for Premier League football to return?
Oh, it mean everything. Not only have the club been through, turmoil, but you've got to think of the fans as well. Being pulled from pillar to post, from Northampton to Birmingham, to not knowing if they're going to have a stadium again, where the club was going to end up. They've stuck by them through thick and thin, and that's what I say when you've got, a fantastic fan base like that, people that love the club. They only wanted it in good hands, and it now is in good hands, and it's in a much healthier place than it ever has been, and it could be even in a healthier and wealthier place than it's ever been for a long, long time. So, I think everyone's praying that, we turn up on the day, we finish the season with the biggest high you possibly could have, because, they are a team, that you've always long thought of being in the Premier League. They've been out there for 20 years. Who would have thought it would take them that long to get back? But they've got an opportunity now, and their dreams are on the horizon.
And you've mentioned the great form they're in. It's 1 loss in 19, which is absolutely exceptional. They won at the Riverside as well. You pointed that out in the playoff semi-final. That was for the first time in their history. They've never done that before. They've also got their striker, top scorer, Victor Gyökeres, who's had more goal involvements in the Championship than any other player. Sort of feels, Noel, like maybe the stars are aligning for Coventry.
Don't be tempting fate now. Come on. Yeah, look, when you look at, and think about what you just said there, you think everything is, in the path for Coventry to go to, the Premier League back again. Look, they're under no illusion that, this is a one-off game. You've got to turn up on the day. You've got to manage your emotions and your discipline, control discipline out while you're out there. You need that little luck like you do in any game at times as well. So, hopefully that, that they're going to bring everything that the momentum's with them. It is with Luton. There's fine margins here between two sides that have done incredibly well. It's a tough one to really call. It's going to be a really interesting match to watch. But, if Coventry can take anything from going to Riverside and, breaking records, the run that they're on at the minute, they've got to be going in full of confidence that they can do this on Saturday. They really must do. And, they'll have a massive contingency of Coventry fans going down there to support them as well.
Yeah. And that's what's brilliant as well. You've already pointed out the fans, even though they've had loads of issues off the pitch and they've been rehomed in different places, they have still stuck by that team,
Absolutely.
Which is wonderful. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
it is, and it just shows that love for the club, doesn't it? That continued, undying love and support. No matter what they're going through thick and thin, they stay there and support.
Yeah, brilliant. Noel, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for chatting to us.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me on.